All right, we're going to continue on with Chapter 6, Section 1. Now, daily overtime. Time and a half rate for all hours worked over 8 in a day. This is not extremely common, but where it is common is in jobs that are extremely physically demanding. Okay, the example we're going to use today is an underwater welder. Okay, is anybody welding here? Okay, an underwater welder. That job, if you are welding underwater, is takes a toll on your body. Okay, if you're underwater welding, but you're going to make a lot of money because it's dangerous and it's really hard on you. I mean, you can lose your life underwater welding, or even mining is where you would make more than 8 hours, or where a regular work day would be 8 hours a day. Anything over that would overtime. Some might be 5 or 6 hours actually, depending on how physically demanding it is on your body. So let's look at this. Suppose that I have an underwater welder. Okay, I have my underwater welder, and this is his time card. He works 10 hours on Monday, 5 hours on Tuesday, 7 hours on Wednesday, and 12 hours on Thursday. And I'm assuming he doesn't work Friday and Saturday because he's dead after working the 12-hour day underwater. Okay, that would be.
Nice. What if Billy wants to be an underwater welder now?
Don't work a 12-hour day, Billy. I mean, I don't know a lot about underwater welding. I just know it's very dangerous. Okay, so how do I figure out how much? We'll use Billy as an example since he's our welder in here. How do I find out how much Billy gets for this paycheck? If he makes, well, first of all, on Monday, does he just get 10 regular hours? If he makes anything over 8 hours is overtime? No. Wouldn't 8 hours be his regular hours and then 2 hours of overtime if he only has to work 8 hours a day and everything over 8 hours is overtime? So if I were to do this for Billy, I know that first Monday, eight of those hours are regular hours, and how many are overtime? 2. Yeah. 2 hours are going to be overtime. He only gets 5 and 7 for Tuesday and Wednesday, but for Thursday, he gets 8 and 4. Okay, so his total regular hours are 28. His total overtime hours are 6. Regular hours 28, overtime hours are 6. Suppose Billy makes $40 an hour, which is, I think, if my research is right, I think that's pretty accurate for an underwater welder. It's $40 an hour. Okay? Some of you need to switch professions. I need to switch professions. All right? Now, how much money is his weekly paycheck for just these? He only worked 34 hours total. But what is his paycheck going to be? Well, for his regular earnings are going to be, you're going to take those $40 an hour times those 28 hours here. Okay, do you guys see where I'm getting this? $40 an hour times 28 hours. So for the regular hours he worked, he gets $1,120.
In a week?
Yes. Now, how much is he going to get for his overtime? Well, how much money is he going to make per hour that he works overtime? $60, because I'm going to take that 40 and multiply it by 1.5 times, and that's going to be $60 an hour.
Isn't that for the time you times the regular 1.5?
Yes, that's what we did yesterday. And so he gets $360 for those 6 hours that he worked overtime. That paycheck for the week is going to be $1,480, and that's before taxes. Okay, so if you can find a job that makes $40 an hour and anything over 8 hours a day is overtime, you found yourself a good job. Okay, as long as it doesn't kill you.
Don't die.
Let's talk about salary, another way to get paid. Okay, salary is another way to get paid. This is a very common way to get paid. Teachers make salary. Usually any public worker. I think policemen make salary. Doctors. No, doctors wouldn't make salary. I don't think.
How much do doctors make?
Now, equivalent earnings for different pay periods. That's what we're going to do right now, but we need to talk about what that means. Okay, we need to break down that sentence. Equivalent earnings for different pay periods. Well, what are equivalent earnings? What do you know about equivalent earnings? What does the word equivalent mean? Equal. So equal earnings. What are earnings? What are we talking about when we're talking about earnings? Yeah, what you're making. Okay, your earnings. What the money you're making is your earnings. So equal earnings for different pay periods. Well, what's a pay period?
And like you pay like 2 weeks or 1 week.
Yeah, how often you get paid. Okay, if you get paid once a year, if you get paid once a month, if you get paid every week, that's called a pay period. Okay, it's how often you get paid is a pay period. So let's look at different pay periods. We have a monthly pay period, meaning you get 12 paychecks per year. If you get paid on salary and they say, okay, your pay period is monthly, you're going to get 1 paycheck a month. If you get paid semi-monthly, you get 24 paychecks a year, or you're getting paid twice a month. Very common for anyone who works at a bank. You usually get paid on the first and the 15th of every month, or something similar to that. Another equivalent, or another pay period is bi-weekly. This is very common. Probably those of you who have jobs probably get paid bi-weekly, meaning you get paid every 2 weeks. If you get paid every 2 weeks, that means you get 26 paychecks a year. 26 paychecks a year. And then the last one is weekly. If you get paid weekly, you get 52 paychecks per year. Let's find equivalent earnings if you make $27,000 a year. If you find a job that pays you salary for $25,000 or $27,000 per year. Well, if you get paid the following pay periods, what's your paycheck going to be? If you get $27,000 a year, if you get 12 paychecks, one a month, how much is going to be in that paycheck? Gross, before taxes. How do I find that? $27,000 divided by 12 months, because there's 12 months in a year. So I'm going to take that $27,000 divided by 12, and I'm going to get $2,250 per paycheck if you get paid once a month. What about bi-weekly? If you get paid every other week and you make $27,000 a year, how are you going to find out how much your paycheck's going to be? Yeah, you're going to divide your $27,000 by 26. Bi-weekly is 26 paychecks a year. That's what we wrote down on the page before. If you want me to show you that. Okay. And weekly, how would I find that? Yep, divided by 52. Very good. All she's doing is grabbing it from what you wrote down before. How many weeks? No, this would be on the page before. This information is coming from right here.
Oh.
What you wrote down before.
I don't remember where it
And hourly. Now we didn't write this down, but we have to be smart here. Suppose that I make $27,000 a year. Okay, or I get offered a job that says you can have $27,000 a year salary. Then you are offered another job that says I'll pay you $11.50 an hour. How do you know which job pays better? Both of them would be 40 hours a week.
So you just multiply it by 40?
You could multiply 1150 times 40 and get your weekly, or you could do what with your weekly earnings? Yeah, you could divide it by 40. You could compare your hourly rate. If you divide 519.23 by 40, you get $12.98 an hour. So which job pays better? The $27,000 a year is better than $11.50 an hour. Okay, and that's how you figure out, like, if you want to compare different jobs and how much they make and they just pay differently, you just break it down. Salary compared to hourly. Questions? No. Now let's move backwards. Suppose that you're offered $840 a week. And I want to find out, or your paycheck's $840 a week, I want to find out how much I make a year, how much I make if I would make it bi-weekly, how much I would make semi-monthly, and monthly. How do I find that information? How do I do that if I make $840 a week? Well, I have to go back to my notes and think, okay, I make that a week. Can I figure out how much I make bi-weekly? Or every other week? How would I find that? If I make $840 a week, how much would I make every other week?
Subtracting on paycheck, you get bi-weekly from the weekly one.
How many paychecks? If you get $840 a week, how many are you getting every other week? Or how much money are you getting every other week? Yeah, multiply by 2. Or another way to do it would be, if I get $840 a week, how much do I get a year? Yeah, multiply by, not by 12, 840 a week. Yeah, multiply it by 52. And you're going to get $43,680 a year. Now that you have that yearly, you can find all the other very easily. And that's what I would recommend, is first break it down to year, and then divide your yearly into each segment. And if you do that, 43,680, I can divide it by 26 for biweekly, 24 for semi-monthly, and 12 for monthly. And that's what I get. Just like you did on the page before. Salary with overtime. I'm going to kind of go fast through this. If you need help with this tomorrow, I'll help you with this tomorrow again. Salary with overtime. Suppose I make $35,000 a year and I work 50 hours that week, and they tell me, well, anything over 40 hours is overtime. How do I find out what my overtime rate is if I make $35,000 a year on salary? Well, I have to first find out what I make an hour and multiply it by time and a half. So 35,000 divided by 52 is $683.08. That's how much I make a week. So if that's how much I make a week, how much do I make an hour if 40 hours is a regular work week? Divided by 40. And I'm going to get $16.83 as my hourly rate. Now how do I get my overtime rate? Multiply that by 1.5, and that's what you get for your overtime rate, is $25.25. We'll finish the rest of this tomorrow. So if $25.25 is my overtime rate, I take my regular earnings, what I get a week, which is actually my $35,000 divided by 52, and I get $673.08, so that's my regular earnings. Then my overtime earnings, since I worked 10 hours overtime, are that 10 times $25.25, and I get $252.50. I add those together, my regular earnings plus my overtime earnings, and I get $925.58 as my gross earnings. Your homework due Thursday, we'll work on it in class tomorrow, is page 199 and page 200, 19 through 53 odd.